Behind the toga, the most expensive mistake of a lifetime, the prosecutor's office usually fell into a deathly silence after 8 in the evening. At that desk, illuminated only by a cold desk lamp, Patricia Soledad Asa Sanchez, 38, unraveled the depths of human darkness. Her day-to-day life consisted of reading the files of broken women, listening to the testimonies of survivors, and putting together the legal puzzles required to imprison men who had promised to love but ended up destroying. Patricia was a woman of the law, possessing an analytical mind and a heart dedicated to justice. She knew how to identify the red flags in a case file within seconds. She knew exactly when a verbal threat was the prelude to a tragedy. But human life holds paradoxes as profound as they are cruel. When she turned off her computer, packed her penal codes into her bag, and signed the final protection orders for complete strangers, Patricia left her shield of authority behind. She shed the invisible toga of her office and became a mother, a wife, an ordinary woman returning to her home in the Pueblo Nuevo sector. Upon crossing the threshold of her house, her technical knowledge and legal sharpness collided with the reality that the law cannot regulate in advance, the crushing weight of a poor choice in a life partner. On that night of May 18, 2026, the silence in Pueblo Nuevo was not one of peace, but rather the heavy tension that precedes a storm. Inside the home, the walls bore witness to the collapse of a marriage that, like so many others, had turned into a prison of incompatibilities. Orlando Cuesta, 36, shared not only the roof with her, but also the responsibility of a son who was just 5 years old. Two other children, born from Patricia's previous relationship, were also growing up in that household, viewing this family structure as the mirror through which they would learn to see the world. Choosing a partner to share one's life with is, without a doubt, the most consequential decision a human being can make. Today's society often sells marriage or cohabitation as the idyllic result of a romantic impulse, a spark of passion, or a checklist of social expectations. However, the reality of living together is a much more arid terrain. Life, by its very definition, is already complex enough. It brings financial crises, illnesses, family losses, and the constant pressure of an increasingly competitive and stressful environment. When a poor marital choice is injected into that naturally challenging ecosystem, the home ceases to be a refuge and transforms into the epicenter of conflict. A bad choice of partner does not always manifest violently on day one. It begins subtly, like an invisible crack in the foundation of a house. It disguises itself as financial incompatibility, where one partner builds while the other sabotages their shared finances through irresponsibility or selfishness. It feeds on vices, those destructive escape valves that erode trust and transform a partner into an unpredictable stranger. It escalates with adultery, which is not merely the breach of a physical pact, but the absolute demolition of loyalty and mutual respect. This combination of factors matures slowly, brewing a bitter cocktail, a daily poison that the innocent spouse is forced to drink in the name of routine, the hope of a change that never comes, or the apparent well-being of the children. In Patricia's case, the paradox was heartbreaking. She, who spent her entire day analyzing the psychology of abusers and defending victims, found herself trapped in the very same web of uncertainty and control dynamics that she fought to eradicate from her office. An abuser does not always show his claws outside the home. Often, before the world, he wears the suit of normalcy. But behind closed doors, frustration, resentment, and a lack of emotional maturity turn into a powder keg. On the night of May 18th, the powder keg exploded. The specific details of the argument remain trapped within the walls of Pueblo Nuevo, but the outcome is a cold, brutal truth that shook the entire country. Orlando Cuesta took the life of prosecutor Patricia Osa. In a single instant of definitive violence, the man who was supposed to be her ally in life's journey became her executioner. The woman who represented the state in prosecuting femicide died under the exact same circumstances she had described countless times in her arguments before the courts. The impact of a decision as intimate as choosing a spouse extends far beyond the couple itself. The true collateral victims of this bitter cocktail are the most vulnerable. Today, 3 children wake up to a radically altered and hostile world. The 5-year-old boy they shared has lost his mother in the most traumatic way imaginable, while carrying the stigma that his own father was the perpetrator of the tragedy. The other 2 children, who had already lived through the transition of a previous family history, are left without the pillar that provided them with direction, security, and an example to follow. A poor choice of partner does not just destroy the present of the innocent spouse, it mortgages, alters, and severely wounds the future of the generations growing up under that roof. This story must not remain confined to police reports or the cold statistics of the prosecutor's office. It must transform into an uncomfortable but necessary mirror for society. It urges us to reclaim the value of wisdom and prudence when linking our lives, our assets, and the stability of our children to another person. Compatibility is not a magical coincidence. It is an alignment of core values, principles, mental health, and the capacity to resolve conflicts without resorting to the destruction of the other person. When we choose a spouse, we are choosing the partner with whom we will face the storms of existence, the guardian of our peace, and the co-author of our children's emotional stability. If that choice is based on superficiality, haste, or a deliberate blindness to warning signs, such as underlying vices, a lack of anger control, or chronic disloyalty, we condemn ourselves to a life of uncertainty, where the worst-case scenario, culminating in an act of irreparable violence, becomes a real possibility. The memory of Prosecutor Patricia Soledad Osa Sanchez deserves to be honored through legal justice, but also through social introspection. May her tragic end in Pueblo Nuevo serve as a silent yet powerful warning on the feet of everyone who reads these lines. Self-love and wisdom in choosing whom we allow into our most sacred space are not luxuries. They are tools for survival. Let us protect the peace of the home, keep our eyes wide open, and understand that a bad marriage is too high a price to pay, a price that absolutely no one should ever have to pay with their life.